Part 72. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuan-Ke. Chapter 716. Kikai. On the other side, Su Tingyu, who was separated from Shan Yu, went to find Qin Shi. In the room, Wei Zuhan was watching TV with Qin Shi. Sister Su, good morning. Wei Zu stood up to say hello. At the same time, he also knew that it was time to leave. Good morning, little pig. Su Tingyu waved his paw with a smile. After Wei Zu left, Su Tingyu couldn't wait to share the new news with Qin Shi. Kikai, Sister Shan Yu is here. Qin Shi blinked, huh? That's it? Su Tingyu briefly explained the situation. When Su Tingyu finished speaking, he found Qin Shi staring at him and said seriously, then you should be careful too. If Chu Xinyu can cause trouble for Shan Yu, she must also want to cause trouble for Su Tingyu. Yeah, I know. After watching TV with Qin Shi for a while, Su Tingyu took out her mobile phone. 2 documents were sent to her mobile phone. One was the result of Deputy Team Wang and others' investigation of Jingxiu apartment, and the other was the solution. It was sent from Puyu. Su Tingyu glanced at Qin Shi, who was still watching TV, and she clicked on the first document. The Will Group is a global real estate giant. In the past 10 years, it has begun to enter the Chinese real estate industry, and many domestic Jingxiu apartments are its products. Jingxiu apartment has always been a combination of Chinese and Western elements, and has been favored by wealthy people in China. Since the construction of Jingxiu apartment, there has never been a bad incident in which the owners were burglarized. But this time, Shan Yu was tricked by Chu Xinyu at the door of his house. So far, the management of Jingxiu apartment seems to be calm and has not discovered anything. When Deputy Wang and others went to the apartment where Shan Yu lived to search for clues and collect evidence, they found that all traces in the apartment had been wiped clean, leaving no abnormalities, as if the home invasion and kidnapping had never happened. After noticing the anomaly, Deputy Wang did not choose to directly apply for investigation and surveillance. Instead, he asked technicians to hack into the surveillance of Jingxiu apartment. As a result, it turned out that during that period last night, the surveillance system of Jingxiu apartment was not turned on at all. Then, Su Tingyu took a look at the background of the Will Consortium. The Will Consortium is composed of the Will family of a certain country. The current head of the Tianqiao district is Will Barton, the first heir of the Will family. Although this man is over 40 years old, he has not yet married. Moreover, he is handsome, rich in wealth and status. He is a perfect golden bachelor, and he himself has the title of Duke of his country. The first heir has no bad habits, but he spends a few days every month to go to his private island for vacation, and no one knows the situation on the island for the time being. After reading the first document, Su Tingyu went to read the second document. When Su Tingyu saw the first paragraph, his eyes widened slightly in surprise. Chu Xinyu, is Guju's biological mother? I go. What happened? Su Tingyu continued to look down. More than 20 years ago, there was a woman who came to the Gu family to cause trouble, even claiming that she had given birth to a son to the previous head of the Gu family who had no heirs. In the end, the woman who only showed her face disappeared mysteriously and was not caught by the Gu family. At that time, Gu Qi had just been taken back by his former head of the family, and his identity had not yet been announced to the public. Because of this commotion, Gu Qi's identity had to be exposed and officially recognized. Su Tingyu recalled Chu Xinyu, whom she met in the island prison. Well, I really couldn't imagine that she would be Gu Qi's biological mother. It doesn't feel like mother and son at all. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuan-Ke. Chapter 717. Su Tingyu continued to read the contents of the document, but his face slowly wrinkled. The subsequent content did not explicitly mention Chu Xinyu's movements. This person seemed to have evaporated from the world. Once he disappeared, he had disappeared for more than 20 years. Xiepu asked Shang Guanlian to invade most of the world's information database, including travel information, identity information, dietary information, etc. After eliminating irrelevant information and using keywords as guidance, he finally came up with a comparison scattered information whose authenticity cannot yet be determined. However, the only thing that is certain is that Chu Xinyu has often lived abroad in these years. In this message from Chu Xinyu, Su Tingyu saw a familiar word, Will Barton. Could it be that Chu Xinyu knew this foreigner? That's why her people were able to freely enter and leave Jingxiu apartment and kidnap sister Shan Yu. Afterwards, someone came to clean up the traces, Su Tingyu speculated in her heart. It's not unreasonable. Let Xiepu investigate this aspect first. Chu Xinyu is too hidden, but Will Barton is the first heir of the family who lives in the spotlight. Therefore, Su Tingyu sent this clue to Jipu and waited for the follow-up results. At this time, in the study room, Chibubi has put forward enough conditions and is waiting for Shan Yu to choose. Shan Yu thought for a moment, looked at Chibubi, and stretched out 2 fingers. I have 2 small conditions. If you're Guju you can meet them, it doesn't matter if I join the punishment. Seeing this, Chibubi couldn't help but turn his head and look at Gucci. After all, the meaning of Shan Yu's words was not related to the welfare benefits of Xing's members, but... Gucci spat out one word coldly. Shan Yu pursed her lips and smiled, this is the first one. I hope that Mr. Guju will be more generous, regardless of past grudges, and let the past go. Don't let the past settle. Chibubi didn't understand very well, as if there was something fishy going on. But Gucci understood. He slowly made a fist with his right hand, and then released it. Okay. Gucci snorted slightly, somewhat reluctantly. The second. Shan Yu quickly said, second, I want to go to Spain, but I can't go as my identity. Well, let's put it this way, do you understand? Although Gucci was a little unhappy with the last condition, he could still understand it. But this second condition came out of nowhere. Reason, I need a reason. Gucci did not directly agree. You are being targeted now, you are not being honest, and you still want to go abroad. I'm going to see an old friend, and by the way, I'm going to get something of mine back. Shan Yu thought for a while and said. That's it. Gucci frowned. Shan Yu nodded, yeah. Gucci stared at Shan Yu for a few seconds, then turned his head and said, I'm not free recently. I'll wait until the event dungeon ends on July 8th. Okay. Boss, Shan Yu blinked his beautiful eyes and immediately changed his words, with a bright smile on his face, as if he was looking forward to it, and also seemed to be joyful that some kind of wish was about to be fulfilled. Ahem, Miss Shan, I will call 2 elite members over now and ask them to accompany you to understand the basic situation of the manor. Okay, please help Chi Te. Although Chibubi had not formally introduced himself, Shan Yu could probably guess Chibubi's identity after staying there for so long. After all, not everyone can speak in front of Gucci. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 718. Separated between worlds, few people know that there is a crack. Some of these cracks are unstable and some are stable. Stable cracks can form a space or a passage, and these cracks are called different space. Somewhere in another dimension. What happened? Who initiated the temporary summons? From the whirlpool doors, various people wearing strange clothes flew out one after another, men and women, old and young. We initiated it. At this time, another whirlpool door opened, and 3 men flew out one after another. One was wearing an ancient Eastern-style commander-level armor, one was wearing a white suit, and the last one was wearing an ancient Eastern Republic-style suit with a kind face. Blue Star Administrator? You called everyone here, what's the matter? Someone among them asked. The kind-faced Blue Star Administrator calmed down at this moment. I would like to ask you, what is the 6-star professional dungeon numbered Blue Star Z-411520? Who is it that has crossed the Blue Star domain without authorization? The invigilator will review and directly initiate a copy. What does this mean? What's the situation? The career dungeon of each world should have been reviewed by the proctor in charge of that world before being approved by the administrator of the world at the lower level. The core of the mission of the career dungeon is based on the premise that it will not endanger the world. The Blue Star Administrator looked serious, and his cold eyes swept over all the administrators present. The 6-star career dungeon numbered Blue Star Z-411520 seriously violates this premise. We at Blue Star have conducted an internal self-examination and confirmed that no one initiated this dungeon. The other administrators looked at each other. Since this dungeon has been opened, it can only be wrong to say that it is wrong. You members of the Blue Star domain can't even handle this little thing, right? At this time, a discordant voice sounded. A mistake is a mistake. Humph, the Blue Star Administrator in a white coat sneered. We have learned about the content and tasks of this dungeon. Not only have they seriously deviated from the rules of the professional dungeon, but there are also factors that are not conducive to the social peace of Blue Star. So, the person who deliberately initiated this type of professional dungeon is what's your intention? It's just a 6-star dungeon. There shouldn't be any big problems in your world. If you really can't withstand this little storm, I suggest you Blue Star withdraw from the competition. Finally, the taciturn Blue Star Administrator raised his eyes slightly, and his right hand seemed to be inadvertently resting on the sword at his waist. In an instant, in front of the administrator who had just spoken, there seemed to be an illusion of thousands of troops rushing towards him, with yellow sand covering the sky and black flags rising in the sky. The administrator's face suddenly became extremely ugly. Upon seeing this, his companions hurriedly brought him back to reality. What do you mean? Admins are not allowed to fight or kill each other. Is it possible that you, Blue Star, want to break this rule? The Blue Star Administrator wearing armor chuckled. The people who broke the rules are not us at Blue Star, but some rats who only dare to hide in the dark and make small moves. You. Okay, the trouble is over. Let's all take a step back. If the same thing happens again, the world that violates the original rules will lose the qualification to participate in the public beta round. As witnessed by all the administrators present, everyone how. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 719. The Blue Star Administrator in a white coat put his hands behind his back. Our Blue Star behavior has always been above board. I just don't know if some bedbugs living in the sewers can consciously abide by it. Haha, don't think that you Blue Stars are superior. You won't be any more soon, someone sneered. It's beautiful to daydream, but it's time to wake up. Finally, it was the administrator who just came out to smooth things over and ended the argument. Okay, the public beta will start soon. Every world is very busy, so don't cause unnecessary trouble. After all, the competition is fair, but it was agreed upon from the beginning. Seeing that the matter was almost over, managers from all walks of life left one after another. The 3 Blue Star managers also returned to the different space belonging to Blue Star. In this alien space, there are various buildings and facilities, where all Blue Star managers work and rest. The 3 Blue Star administrators went to the tallest building and reported the situation here to other waiting companions. The person who did the trick this time must be the administrator of Black Star. Black Star is the most likely. After all, this parallel game was initiated by Black Star, but it does not rule out administrators from other worlds having different intentions. It's okay this time. It's just a 6-star dungeon. It didn't cause much damage. Those little bastards also responded in a timely manner and detained 6 players from other worlds. Although the Blue Star administrators expressed their anger at this terrible incident, in fact, they themselves did not suffer much loss. According to the regulations, now they cannot reveal the truth directly to Blue Star players. They can only let these little Blue Star bastards discover problems and look for clues on their own. This time the matter of the 6-star dungeon turned out to be a good thing, allowing those little bastards to get closer to the truth. But just because there's not much loss, it doesn't mean peace of mind. If you don't make a fuss and position yourself as a victim, wouldn't it make those bad guys who engage in petty tricks even more rampant? Speaking of those detained alien players, the administrator of that world came to us to intercede and wanted us to release them. A Blue Star manager suddenly remembered this incident. Don't let go. Yes, if you were caught based on your ability, why should you let him go? You're right. GE, speak Chinese. Don't you know that most of the people here speak Chinese? As soon as these words came out, all the administrators with Western faces were speechless. Oh my God. You, China, have the largest population and the most deaths. Couldn't you have the largest number of administrators present? Moreover, there is a panel that automatically translates. Language is not an issue at all. Ahem, I'm off topic. It's a neutral world. We can't act too much like bandits, right? I think, I'll tell you if there are benefits. But it's useless for us to ask for benefits. Those little live bastards are the most important thing. Let's put it aside for now. Anyway, we Chinese people are always hospitable and amiable to foreigners. Maybe if we stay a little longer, those foreign players will be so happy that they don't want to go home. A Blue Star manager with an oriental face. The person said the truth without blinking an eyelid. What? JAILRD, an idiot. Do I look like an idiot? I don't believe it anyway. Ouch. Me too. Another Blue Star administrator with an oriental face couldn't bear it. Hey, there is a translator on the panel. Don't think we can't hear the bird language. That's too far, let's get back to the point. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 720. July 6th. Sutingyu wanted to wait for Fatty to come out before joining the dungeon, but it was already the 6th and Fatty still hadn't come out. There was no other way. As the 7-day rest period was about to expire, Sutingyu and others chose to enter the dungeon first. Because Shan Yu is now also a member of Seeing, Sutingyu originally planned to invite Shan Yu to ride together to download the dungeon, but Guqi interfered. As for the reason for Guqi, well, he didn't say anything in detail. He just said enough people and sent Sutingyu away. And Shan Yu's attitude seems to be what he wants. In the end, Shan Yu was arranged by Chibubi to enter the dungeon with other members of Seeing. Hello player number 444,444, your scheduled dungeon departure time is about to start, and there are still 10 seconds left in the countdown. Please fasten your seat belts and keep your belongings. There will be 2 other riders spending this carpool with you. A wonderful journey, please look forward to it. Players number 444,444, please note that the countdown to the start of the train is over and the dungeon matching is in progress. The matching is completed and the countdown to enter the dungeon begins. 3, 2, 1. Having carpooled several times, Sutingyu was no stranger to the prelude to entering the dungeon. Sutingyu sat quietly in his seat, waiting for him to be transported into the instance. The moment she was teleported into the dungeon, Sutingyu's vision went dark. She was alone in the chaotic tunnel like a black wave, losing the concept of time and space. Just when Sutingyu was expecting that she would appear in the dungeon in the next second, the chaotic tunnel around her stirred up circles of black ripples, as if being disturbed by some external force. At the same time, on the same day, all the Blue Star players who entered the dungeon on July 6 were inexplicably trapped in the Chaos Tunnel. The passage of time was lost, and no one could tell how long they had been inside. Until all Blue Star players who are trapped will have their panels pop up automatically. Dear players, please note, congratulations, you have become one of the 44,444 lucky players and triggered the hidden Easter egg in the parallel park. 44,444 lucky players will be transported into the same round of dungeons. Please start your active exploration. Parallel Paradise wishes you all, have a good time and come back again and again. Sutingyu, Sutingyu blinked his big eyes twice to make sure that he was not blind. What's wrong with this hot chicken game again? A new type of event copy? Before Sutingyu could figure it out, the stagnant Chaos Tunnel was running again. This time, all the 44,444 Blue Star players who were trapped successfully entered the instance. Different space. Several replica administrators suddenly received alert notifications from the panel. Please note, there is an abnormality in the copy of the theatrical version that you are responsible for. Some players who completed the matching failed to successfully transfer into the instance. What happened? Damn. I've heard of dungeons crashing, but never heard of players disappearing before the dungeon even started. The dungeon administrator who received the notification immediately checked to see which unlucky players they were. After the results came out, there was a strange silence. Are they all Blue Star players? Why is it Blue Star again? The administrators of Blue Star just made a fuss, and now this kind of problem occurs again, and all the problems are caused by Blue Star players. It's hard not to think that Blue Star is being targeted. How to fix this? And the Blue Star administrators who got the news. No need to guess, it must be the fault of Black Star's bunch of bastards. We found out. All Blue Star players have been pulled into the same real world, and the administrator of that world has been moving around frequently with the administrator of Black Star recently. It is very likely that the two parties have formed an alliance. A bunch of grandsons. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 721. On a gray and rainy day, the sky was completely covered by dark clouds and there was not a trace of sunlight. The drizzle fell to the ground like broken pearls. In a dark alley, among the sour-smelling garbage heaps, small black animals crawled out from time to time. Cough, cough, cough. Suddenly, a cough sounded, frightening the nearby small animals, and they all hid in the garbage pile and disappeared. Sutingyu pinched her nose and wrinkled her face. Just when she regained consciousness, she was shocked to find that she was facing a large pile of black plastic bags of garbage, which still exuded some corpse odor. Sutingyu could guess what was inside without even pulling it out. Precisely because of being scared, Sutingyu's feet were unsteady and she almost fell into the garbage with her face facing it. Sutingyu raised her head and glanced at the surrounding walls, which looked like a modern urban style. In the distant sky, she could still see some tall buildings reaching into the clouds. What the hell is this place? Sutingyu finally found a relatively clean place without too many unpleasant odors, and then prepared to receive the content of the copy before making the next step. But when she saw the contents of this round of copies, she was completely dumbfounded. Copy, Yin Yang City. Background, a world divided into yin and yang. In the extremely yin zone, women are respected, and women are the masters. All men living there can only be reduced to slaves, beasts, and playthings for women to abuse. In the extremely yang zone, men are respected, and men are the masters. All women, including those included, can only be reduced to slaves, beasts, and playthings for men to abuse. Number of players, 44,444. Main mission. Difficulty. Duration: Pass-through rewards. After clearing the level, you can get a certain amount of game coins, a probability of getting game props and lottery opportunities, and a probability of getting free attribute points. Failure penalty. Sooting you, this, what are these? There are a lot of question marks, and the main tasks, difficulty, duration, and failure penalties are all unclear. The only thing that comforted Sooting was that the background of the dungeon could still be seen, and he could learn more about the world of this dungeon. But this background feels a bit exciting. Looking at this description, Sooting could probably understand that in this original world, there were two societies where men were superior to women and women were superior to men. Sooting now had to figure out whether he was in the extremely negative zone or the extremely positive zone. The method of investigation is also simple. You only need to sneakily observe the nearby NPCs. Wait a minute, there won't be any trouble in this round of dungeons. No, it seems like something has already happened. Sooting just took a step forward, then took it back again. 44,444 players were forced to enter this round of dungeons. Where did so many players come from, and what was the selection method? In addition, Sooting used the carpool ticket, so would Qin-Chi and Gu-Chi also enter the Xiaomozi instance? I was intercepted by this dungeon on the way to the dungeon. Could it be the same for the other 44,444 players? By the way, Sister Shanyu and I entered the dungeon at the same time, but if we didn't carpool together, was she also affected? The more Sooting thought about it, the more doubts appeared, prompting her to take another look at the contents of the copy. But this time, Sooting made a new discovery. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 722. Wait a minute, the reward for clearing the level is not a question mark, but this doesn't seem to be a reward that can be obtained in ordinary dungeons, right? Sooting took a few more glances and finally determined that this kind of clearance reward was usually only available in event dungeons and professional dungeons. Moreover, only dungeons with high difficulty will be rewarded with free attribute points. Holy crap, then the difficulty of this dungeon should be above 5 stars. Is it probably an event dungeon or a professional dungeon? If it's a professional dungeon, doesn't it mean that this round of Dungeon World is the real world? The more Sooting guessed, the more frightened she became. No way. The little fairy just wanted to enter a normal dungeon. If it were a real world, she would probably miss Qin-Chi's birthday if she stayed for a long time. I hope it's not a real world. Even if it is a reality, there is still a chance, and the time ratio is uncertain, Sooting muttered to himself. Now, we need to first understand the worldview of the dungeon world, and then see if we can trigger the main quest. Regarding those many question marks, Sooting could only guess that this round of dungeons may require players to explore the main tasks on their own, which is somewhat similar to the mode of giving small tasks to professional dungeons. Wipe. The more I think about it, the more it feels like I'm in the real world. It was drizzling in the sky. Sooting took out a raincoat and umbrella from the inventory, then tied the storage ring on a rope and hung it around his neck. Fortunately, this round of dungeons does not seem to restrict the use of inventory. After putting on his raincoat, Sooting strolled out like a thief, looking around with big watery eyes. However, there were no people nearby, and the buildings were also very old and low. Sooting thought about the tall buildings he had just seen in the distance, all brightly lit. There should be someone there. I hope it's a very yin area, otherwise, it would be too unfriendly to the little fairy. With this thought in mind, Sooting trotted towards the high-rise building. After walking for about 10 minutes, Sooting hadn't reached the high-rise buildings yet, but on the way, he finally saw someone. It's a lively bar. In many old and dilapidated low-rise buildings, the doors are open, and the dim yellow light shines out unscrupulously, falling on the somewhat bumpy cement road. There was no one at the door, so Sutingyu quietly approached and then secretly looked at the situation inside. This sight made Sutingyu confused and a little hard to understand. "Look at my big black dog. He is obviously taller and stronger than your little skinny dog. TCH, isn't he just a big boss? Is he as handsome as my little puppy? My dog is the best. He has a pair of strange eyes." A group of women are arguing about their pet dogs. To listen to it, there seems to be nothing wrong with them. But the collar on the other end of the dog leash that each of them was holding was actually tied to the men who were wearing thin clothes. The women were sitting on chairs, drinking, chatting, or comparing themselves to each other, while the tethered men were really like pet dogs, lying obediently at the feet of their owners without any complaints on their faces. Hiss. Sutingyu felt that she no longer needed to go to the high-rise building. The answer is already obvious. This is a very dark place, where women are superior to men. Sutingyu saw a woman with an irritated face, as if something was not going her way, so she kicked her pet without even thinking about it. After kicking him, he seemed to be still angry, and continued to kick the pet on the head and abdomen with the pointed toe of high heels. Soon, it started to bleed. And from beginning to end, the pet just endured it silently. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 723. Sutingyu thought for a moment, then took out a gold bracelet from the storage ring, held it in his hand, and then walked in without any surprise. Some women inside saw a little girl coming in, and immediately looked away in boredom. Phew. Sutingyu's big eyes rolled around, revealing some cunningness. The front desk was cleaning the table out of boredom when he saw a half-grown little girl coming in. He couldn't help but arouse a little interest. "Little girl, what are you doing here? Why, are you looking for happiness?" Giggle. The woman at the front desk did not lower her voice, causing several female drinkers around her to hear her. One of the female drinkers became interested and pulled off the chain on her hand. Her pet immediately lay in front of her. "Little girl, sister, I am in a good mood now and can help you. I have only used this 7 times, so I will give it to you now." Sutingyu blinked his big eyes. "Ah, what is this talking about? What's the meaning?" "Pretty sister, I can't take your things." Sutingyu politely refused, complimenting her a little. "Pretty sister," these 4 words suddenly made the female bartender happy. She covered her face and smiled with a happy expression. "It's okay, I'm asking you to do it. You only need to come and try it once. I promise, sister, you will definitely like it." Felt. "Ah. What?" Sutingyu, who was very innocent and simple, said that she didn't understand at all. "Okay, she's just a child, stop teasing others. You look cute, little girl. How old are you?" Sutingyu smiled and said shamelessly, "Dear sisters, I will be 15 years old in 1 month this year." 15 years old, that's not too young. You can have a taste of happiness." The female drinker at the beginning still persisted in wanting Sutingyu to taste the pet she had used 7 times. "Come on, I've used it 7 times. How dare you give it to this little girl?" "Well, no matter what, I need to find a baby bird." Sutingyu remembered her original intention and silently stayed away from these passionate and beautiful sisters. She approached the woman at the front desk and took out her small gold bracelet. "Sister, can I change this for money? I just picked it up on the road." The woman at the front desk took the small gold bracelet from Sutingyu, looked at it for a few times, and said, "Little girl, are you really the one who picked it up?" "Uh-huh. But this is not a gold store." The woman at the front desk held the small gold bracelet and had no intention of returning it to Sutingyu. "Sister, I won't be able to find a gold bank for a while, so I can just exchange some small money with you, any amount is fine." Sutingyu blinked her big eyes, ready to be tricked. Okay, the woman at the front desk seemed to agree reluctantly. She put away the small gold bracelet and took out a few pieces of paper currency from her bag. I won't bully you, little girl. 5,000 liangzhu. Okay, so Tingyu took the banknotes and counted them. There were 5 in total, each with a denomination of 1,000. Once you have the money, you will have basic living security. Next, Tingyu wanted to understand this copy world, especially the situation in the extreme yang zone, and how yin and yang were distributed. Beautiful sister, I heard from the elders that there is a polar sun zone. What is there? As soon as these words came out, the face of the woman at the front desk turned cold for a moment, and then she snorted disdainfully, these are places where disobedient vicious dogs go. Little girl, you are still young, so don't even think about running away, go in and play, and when the time comes, you will be torn apart by a bunch of vicious dogs, but there will be no place to cry. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 724. Yeah, I will remember it, pretty sister. After asking this question, Tingyu stopped asking other questions. If he asked too many questions, the bigger the flaw would be. Assuming that this is a real world, these women in front of them do not have any NPC fixed program thinking. If they show any flaws, they will be caught and locked up in a small black room. After all, Tingyu had experienced a small dark room containing players from other worlds in reality, so he naturally had to be cautious. Taking a step back, even if this is not the real world, it is still an extremely difficult dungeon, and the intelligence of the NPCs in it cannot be underestimated. As for more information about this world, on the way here, Tingyu also saw high-rise buildings in the distance. Now in the bar, Tingyu also caught a glimpse of some female bartenders holding electronic products. The bar is also equipped with speakers and microphones. From this, Tingyu can judge that this is a world that is developing in the direction of the technology tree. There should be a network system. By then, as long as you buy a computer from this world and check the internet, you can check the basic world situation out. After switching to the currency of this dungeon world, Tingyu no longer stayed too much. She was afraid that if she stayed longer, the group of enthusiastic and beautiful sisters would recommend pets to her again. After leaving the bar, Tingyu still walked towards the high-rise building. Slowly, Tingyu also encountered some pedestrians and vehicles on the road. Tingyu tried several times and finally found a taxi. Go over there, Jinhang. Tingyu pointed to the high-rise buildings, which should be the most prosperous place in the city. The driver was a female driver. After knowing the destination, the female driver started the engine and set off. Taxis have timers and charges are based on the time. 40 minutes later, the high-rise buildings that Tingyu could only look up at from a distance before were now inside them. As the taxi shuttled through the city center, Tingyu looked at things outside the car through the car window. The flow of people and vehicles is very dense, and there are lights everywhere. And Tingyu discovered that among the people he saw, the majority were women. In some street stalls or shops, women were in charge, while men were very few. Even if you occasionally see some men, they all have collars tied around their necks, like pet dogs, being held in the hands of women. The Yin Zone is a feminist society. The men living here have no rights at all as human beings, and they only deserve to live in confusion like domestic animals. Tingyu had seen too much about the social conditions of men and women in extremely yin areas, and it was not difficult to imagine the situation in another extremely yang area. Such a world is truly a sick world. The world is so big and full of wonders. Tingyu, who has just come to the dungeon world, has opened his eyes a little. After arriving at Jinxing, Sotingyu got off the car and paid 150 liangzu. Sotingyu thought that after going to the gold bank to exchange for more money, she would still need to find a hotel or a rental house, so she discussed it with the female driver and asked the latter to wait for her where she was, and then take her to the hotel, paying double the fare. Times. When she heard that she could get double the fare, the female driver readily agreed. After the discussion, Sotingyu, wearing a raincoat, walked into Jinhang. Using the cover of the raincoat, Sotingyu took out some gold bracelets, gold necklaces, etc. from underneath. Finding the counter lady of a gold store, Sotingyu took out the gold bracelet and necklace, exchange money. Sotingyu didn't take out too much, which was within the normal acceptable range for a store clerk who came into contact with these gold jewelry every day. When they were in the bar just now, the reason why Sotingyu chose to change was because he didn't want to be cheated too much, and the other was because he was afraid that the bar clerk would be interested in killing people and stealing goods. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 725. After all, the bar area at that time was on the edge of the city and was a mixed bag of people. Furthermore, Sotingyu, who was new here and didn't even know the main mission, didn't want to cause trouble. According to the new gold price standard last month, this is the price you will get. Please tell me whether to pay by credit card, mobile phone, or cash. The clerk of the gold bank showed the calculated price to Sotingyu. Among the 5 gold bracelets and 5 necklaces, Sotingyu chose relatively high-quality items, and exchanged them for a total of 25 W cool beads. Sotingyu didn't have a bank card or mobile phone with her, and she didn't have time to apply for it, so she naturally chose cash. So, the Jinhang clerk prepared a suitcase specifically for money, put all the 25 W cool beads in, and then handed them to Sotingyu. After leaving Jinhang, Sotingyu didn't rush back to the taxi, because when she got off the bus, she saw a store next to Jinhang, which seemed to buy mobile phones and computers. Sotingyu walked about 10 steps and entered the shop directly. There are rows of glass counters in the store, and the products displayed inside are the mobile phones and computers that Sotingyu wants to buy. Sotingyu didn't have time to choose, so she chose a relatively expensive 19,999 mobile phone and 46,666 computer, and installed a mobile phone card and broadband. Many things in this world are similar to those in the real world. They are all about developing technology trees, except for the pathological social relationship between men and women that dominates the mainstream. After everything was done, a total of 67,165 liangzu was spent on mobile phone bills and broadband charges. The former came as a bonus with the purchase of a mobile phone, while for the latter, Sotingyu only purchased broadband for 1 month. Sotingyu was carrying a suitcase in one hand and a bag from the mobile phone store in the other hand, which contained the newly purchased mobile phone and computer. After getting into the taxi, Sotingyu said the name of a hotel. This was when she was in a mobile phone store, downloading software on her new mobile phone, and then searched for nearby hotels with good reputations. Finally, I found a hotel with a bank nearby and stopped by to apply for a bank card. In a modern society, Sotingyu was a little unaccustomed to not having any money on her mobile phone. Furthermore, she couldn't carry her suitcase all the time. It would be too ostentatious. Because he didn't have a bank card or half a dime on his phone, Sotingyu could only go to the hotel first and then spend money to stay. Okay, we'll be there in half an hour. Because the fare was doubled, the female driver seemed a lot more enthusiastic. After half an hour's drive, Sotingyu used this time to download some commonly used software on her phone. Then, use your mobile phone to go online to search for basic information about the world. The extreme yin zone and the extreme yang zone have already appeared in the earliest period of written records in the world. Living in the extremely yin zone, women completely crush men in terms of physical fitness and brain development. Men have always been in a disadvantaged group. In the evolution of history, women have gradually taken a dominant position, forming a matrilineal society. The situation in the extreme sun zone is exactly the opposite. As for why the phenomenon of separation of yin and yang occurs, generations of researchers have been exploring. Finally, more than 500 years ago, a famous researcher in the extremely yin zone discovered the truth. If people living in this world observe carefully in life, it is not difficult to find that the weather conditions in extremely cloudy areas are mostly cloudy and rainy, with snow, hail and terrible ice storms occurring from time to time.